Do you know what are the mistakes that leads to people selling their houses even if they don't want to actually sell? Right? Because so many people will end up selling their houses even if they still want to stay in that property. But because of the mistakes that they have done when they were buying that house, then it leads them to actually sell when they don't want. So it is the big elephant in the Okuria Manenge. Welcome to this session. So first, to understand that, we need to first understand what are the reasons why people sell their properties, right? So the reasons why people sell their properties is, for example, people sell their properties because the family that they are staying in, their family is growing, right? Let's say when you bought the property, it was just you and your wife, and now because the family is growing, you have made 2, 3 kids or 4, 5 kids. Now the house is becoming much smaller. Then it means you need to upgrade to get a much bigger house, right? Another reason for people selling is because maybe they are elderly, right? When they are elderly, it means that the property becomes too big to maintain and they are no longer able to maintain the property. So it is very, very, very difficult for them to maintain that property. So they end up selling the property and buying a smaller sized house, right? Another reason for people selling is because of a change in the family structure. So let's say there's a death in the family. So when there's a death in the family, it affects maybe how the people they will afford, or all those kind of stuff, different things that can lead to them selling. Or maybe the people that are in the family, they stay in different area, right? So now there's nobody that really wants to stay in that property. So also that leads to people selling their property. And then another reason will be divorce, right? And then if it's divorce, in most cases, if you are married in community of property, you need to buy the other person out, or you either sell the property and then you share your 50-50 of that property. Another reason for selling will be that if you are an investor and you just buy and sell properties, right? If you are an investor and you just buy and sell properties, right? And then there's other reasons as well, but I'm not going to go too much into that. Or another final reason is when you are financially under pressure, right? Financially under pressure means that you are now unable to afford the house that you at some point was able to afford that property, right? So now if you are unable to afford that property, it means that you need to sell it, or otherwise you stand a chance of losing that property for free. And you would have lost the equity that you've built in that property, because when the bank repossesses your house, they sell it for whatever you owe them, and that's it, right? Nothing else. But what are the mistakes that people make when they're buying a property that leads them to selling their properties even though they don't want to sell the property, right? So I'm going to talk about 1, 2, 3 example. But before I get to that, hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit it. I'm waiting for you. Thank you for those that have subscribed already, and I appreciate that you appreciate the information that we share in this channel. Okay, so the very first mistake is that when people are buying their properties, they actually do not look at how much they actually afford, right? They don't actually look at how much is their affordability, because that's a very, very key thing that you actually need to make sure that you understand actually how much you actually afford for the property that you want to buy. And you also need to understand how much is the amount that the bank is willing to give for you, right? So the bank is willing to give you 30% of your gross, right? That's the maximum affordability that you are able to be given by the bank if you are buying your house through the bank. right? So it's very, very much key that you understand the amount that the bank is willing to give you. So if the bank is willing to give you 30%, right, they obviously look at a certain criteria, right? And which means that that is really the amount that you can really afford. So many people, they make a mistake, right? When they maybe went to a pre-approval, or maybe they went to an agent, or maybe they went to a bond originator, or maybe they went to a bank, or wherever they went, and they tell them that what you can afford, it's actually 30% of your gross. They will not tell you directly that it's 30% of your gross, but they will give you an amount to say, if we are looking at how much you earn and everything, this is how much you afford. Now you get too much excited, and then you go and apply for a home that is 30% of your gross, right? Which means that you are actually applying a house that is on the maximum side of what you can afford. But the problem is, in this day and age, the economy is not so stable, right? The economy fluctuates, right? Because the economy is run with currency. Currency means something that is not stable. Currency is something that is always fluctuating. So now, because of fluctuating, then maybe you have high inflation. So when you have high inflation, it leads to things like increase in interest rates, like just what we have seen from the beginning of the year, or from the end of last year until now, where you see that the interest rates are going up, right? So now what happens to the people when the interest rate actually goes up? When this interest rates goes up, it means that now, because you have applied at a maximum point of your affordability, now you cannot afford that house anymore, because that installment that you were paying is going to increase by 200, by 300, by 400. And it's not just only that, the rest of the cost of living also gets high. It's not just about the interest rate. And when that happens, you actually now begin to feel the pressure of not being able to afford your property. What it means you can no longer afford. It means you can no longer pay your installment in full. So it means that what you need to do, you need to sell your property, which is the wrong idea. The right idea is, if 30% is the maximum that you can afford, when you apply, you must give allowance that if something happens, right, you must actually buy a property at let's say between 15% to 25% of your gross. That gives you space to breathe when there's actually an interest rate increase and when the cost of living are very high. Sadly enough, right now we are seeing a lot of people that are selling their properties because of this same reason that I'm explaining. So avoid that, right? Avoid that. And another thing that makes people to sell their properties even if they do not want to sell the property. So this goes to my friends who are the property investor. So sometimes as a property investors or landlords, let me say, we buy a property, right? When we buy a property, we want to rent it out, right? But we didn't do the due diligence to understand that when you are buying an investment property, it must actually pay itself. Pay itself, it means that if there's a money for levies, if there's a money for rates and taxes, and there's a bond, so all those costs must be covered by the rental income. So if the rental income does not cover that, it means you as a landlord, you're going to experience a feeling where you have the tenants paying a rental. They are paying the rental, but that doesn't cover your costs. So you still need to go to your pocket and cover those costs, which means that that property is making a loss. When it's making a loss like that, what it means you must sell that property. And that's not what we want to see for investors, for people that actually wants to make sure that they achieve financial freedom, right? Which we always promote, right? And the third reason, I must say that I'm not an expert in this. By any point, I'm not an expert, right? But divorce. So many people will buy properties together as a couple. They will share 50-50. Or even if they don't buy together, maybe they are married in commit of property, right? What it means is that if these people now are no longer in good terms, it means now they need to separate, and they need to either sell that property, or if they're not selling that property, it means one of the partners must buy the other party out, right? So what do I want to say as a mistake that you need to avoid here? People always say that the partner that you marry, right, or the partner that you choose will break you or will build you. So it is very much important to try, by all means, to choose the best partner, right? I know that is not very easy because you have a lot of pretenders, and people right now can pretend. They can pretend like they are this person that they are not. So I don't know what I can say, but what I can say is that you need to be sure that the person that you are married to is the right person for you, is the person that is really is the right personality, supports you as a person, and you support them, you love each other. So I think, I'm not an expert like I said, but there's 30 cents that I can just give is that at least just do your due diligence, right? Don't be excited with the first feelings that you get when you meet someone without properly knowing them. I know it's very difficult to actually know someone, but you need to try and go an extra mile to really understand what kind of person you are getting married to, because you don't want to end up in divorcing and disagreeing about the sharing of the property and everything. So find someone that you will build together. You will spend the rest of your life together. So I hope this video adds some sort of value in your life. And you know, this is what I live for. I live to create value in people's life. I want to change people's life. So please share this video with your friends, with your family, so that also they can get this information. But the most important thing, don't forget to subscribe. The Big Elephant, Ndokuria Manenje. It means I love you guys. I was just driving. I was not even planning about this video, but I thought about it, and then I just stopped by the highway and I take this video for you guys. Cheers. I'll see you in the next one. The Big Elephant, Ndokuria Manenje. I'm out.